everyone. Welcome to Sabbath School Gems, where each week we showcase key concepts from this week's Seventh-day Adventist Sabbath School lesson. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Sabbath School Gems. This is Lesson 9 for Sabbath, August 28, 2021, and it's titled The Rhythms of Rest, and it's from the quarterly Rest in Christ. And this week, as well as next week, we're going to be on a topic which is one of my favorite, and that is the Sabbath. So hopefully we'll maybe touch on a few different aspects of the Sabbath that maybe you haven't thought of. So let's just start out with what the Sabbath is. Hopefully you're all familiar with that. And we'll go way back to creation in Genesis 2, where it says, "Thus the heavens and the earth and all the host of them were finished. And on the seventh day God ended his work which he had done, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had done. Then God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because in it he rested from all his work which God had created and made." And of course the lesson brings out that after he created man, on the sixth day he pronounces his creation good, or very good as it's translated. So here God has finished his creation, and he has sanctified the next day, the seventh day, as a special holy day. That's called the Sabbath. We read in a couple of the verses that describe this are in Exodus 20, and I'm sure you're all familiar with that. "Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord your God. In it you shall do no work, you, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your male servant, nor your female servant, nor your cattle, nor your stranger who is within your gates. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and earth, the sea and all that is in them, and rested the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it." And the lesson asks one that is repeated again in Deuteronomy, which is really just referencing back to the Exodus. It's a little bit different. See if you can see the differences in this next version. This is Deuteronomy 5, starting in verse 12. "Observe the Sabbath day to keep it holy, as the Lord your God commanded you." So instead of remember the Sabbath day, now it's observe the Sabbath day. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord your God. In it you shall do no work, you, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your male servant, nor your female servant, nor your ox, nor your donkey, nor any of your cattle, nor your stranger who is within your gates, that your male and servant and your female servant may rest as well as you. And remember that you were a slave in the land of Egypt, and the Lord your God brought you out of there by a mighty hand and by an outstretched arm. Therefore the Lord your God commanded you to keep the Sabbath day." Now we see, if you caught that, the difference is in one, he's pointing to creation. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, and he rested on the seventh. And then this one, it's saying, but the seventh day, remember that you were a slave in Egypt, and that the Lord is the one who brought you out by a mighty hand. And we'll see as we go through how those are really tied into the same thing. One is kind of pointing to creation, the other one's pointing to the deliverance from slavery in Egypt. And we'll see how that goes. So is a Sabbath, the lesson study says it's a day to be and not to do. But it's interesting because there are certain things that were to be done or not to be done on this day. I mean, obviously resting, and you shall do no work. And what other things can you think about as far as what was or was not to be done? I think we know about the manna. They were supposed to collect, and this was just when God was teaching them about the Sabbath and really trying to demonstrate for them that it was a special day after he took them out of Egypt, and he had them collect extra manna on the sixth day. And all the other days, if they collected extra manna, it wouldn't last till the next day. But on the sixth day, it would. That was the only time when it would actually last. And on the seventh day, on the Sabbath, there was no manna. Some people still went out to collect it, and God was really disappointed in that, saying, why won't you listen to me? And I think about the ones who went out to gather on the seventh day because they probably didn't collect extra on the sixth day. Just think of it. If you had collected extra on that sixth day, why would you go out why would you have to work or go out and collect more if you already had it? And if they had collected on the sixth day, it wouldn't have gone bad, so they still would have it. So you know that they probably didn't collect extra on that sixth day. And because there was no on the seventh day, did they go hungry? Or maybe they ate from the generous hands of others. And maybe quite humbly they did that as well, knowing that they disobeyed God and that they were not going to eat that day because there wasn't any manna for them. So I just thought of that, but it's something that, God told them specifically, I'm going to give you extra on the sixth day. Maybe he gives us extra at our work. Sometimes I feel like I'm more productive on Friday. It seems like I get a lot done. So maybe he has us do that so that we can feel like we've accomplished and we can really truly rest and put it behind us on the Sabbath day. But there's other things that we can do on the Sabbath, and I think we turn to Isaiah 58, 13 and 14. It says, if you turn away your foot from the Sabbath, from doing your pleasure on my holy day, and call the Sabbath a delight, the holy day of the Lord honorable, and shall honor him, not doing your own ways, nor finding your own pleasure, nor speaking your own words, then you shall delight yourself in the Lord, and I will cause you to ride on the high hills of the earth, and feed you with the heritage of Jacob your father. The mouth of the Lord has spoken. So this is interesting. So what is it telling us to do if you turn away your foot from the Sabbath? So in that word turn away, it's like walk away. Walk away from our own desires, from doing your pleasure, our own pleasure on that holy day, and call the Sabbath a delight. So now we're supposed to not do something, not walk toward our own pleasures, and we're supposed to be calling it a delight, a luxury. It's to be considered a luxury. And the holy day of the Lord, honorable. Honorable is important, heavy and important. We're supposed to put import on it. And we are to desire and honor God, not do our own ways or finding our own pleasure or speaking our own words. And that word in the Hebrew is words. So don't speak words, and some translations say idle words, but you kind of get the point. Maybe we should not speak as many words and point more and think more about God and be listening and speaking to God and communing with him. So it's a special appointment time. So you can see how there's things that maybe we can do or should be doing and not doing on the Sabbath. And we'll see why that's so important. Not as a checklist of what are you going to do, what can you do, and what can't you do, but it's just showing us how that day is set apart and how we should treat it and how it should be treated differently. We shouldn't just be doing what we do routinely. That, that word there, doing your own pleasure, and it's really one of the words that's used in there is like a trodden road. In other words, don't do just customary habits and don't do the things that you do all through the rest of the week. Like have it be something different, something special. And it reminds me of in Farsi, in the Persian language, there's actually, if you look at the language, there's a word for Sabbath or the seventh day or Saturday, whatever you want to call it, is Shanbei. And they order their weeks. Sunday starts 1 Shanbei, 2 Shanbei, 3 Shanbei. And then sometimes, it's been changed for Friday to be mean gathering day. But it really was 1 shambé, 2 shambé, 3 shambé. You get all the way down to 6 shambé, and then it's just shambé. And I've asked some friends, and they don't really know even what shambé means, and they don't know why it's ordered like that. But you can see how even embedded in that ancient that language, which came out of an ancient language, I'm sure, probably they were keeping the Sabbath way back then. And you can see how it's always pointing toward the Sabbath. It's like their whole week is ordered with that word, and then they arrive at the Sabbath. So I just thought that was interesting, how they order. And there's a lot of things that are embedded in these languages that, there's a lot of things that have been lost. But some of these ancient languages, if you look at the languages, they have Sabbath in them. Embedded in these languages is the Sabbath. And, it's just interesting to think how there was probably a time when there was a lot more people than just the Hebrews that were keeping Sabbath, because it was just how the week was ordered back then, and how it's still ordered today. So let's look at the lessons that he brings out, how the Sabbath can be looked at as a memorial of creation. It's also, as we read, it's a memorial of deliverance. And we can also see how the Sabbath ties in with sanctification. And then I want those to bring us to really kind of tie all those together, so they're not separate things as they would maybe appear on the surface. So we have seen already how Sabbath is a memorial of creation, how God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it from the very beginning. And in Mark 2, verse 27, when Jesus is talking, he says, and this was in response to them accusing him of breaking the Sabbath, and he said, the Sabbath was made for man, and not man for the Sabbath. And I read that again, and I thought, does that mean that God made the Sabbath? Like, he made all these things, he made man, and then he made the Sabbath. And I don't really think that's the case, because he was done creating, but he did sanctify it. But it's like it was just there, and he sanctified it. It's not like he made it. This would seem like there is some creation there. He made it for man. Well, that to me means he's considering it for man. The Sabbath wasn't like pre-existing. The Sabbath is part of our existence, our creation, and our world. Maybe the other worlds have a different timetable, but this is for us. And the Sabbath was given to us as a blessing for us. And it's not something that we have to conform to that was existed before. In other words, the Sabbath isn't like God. God made the Sabbath, and it's how our world and our universe is ordered, and it was made to be a blessing for man. And I think that's what Christ was trying to communicate, is that it wasn't a time for restrictions, and it was a time, a really special, sacred, special time that was given to us by our Creator for communion with him. So we can see how it was, it's part of creation, and it is like a reminder of creation, because that's how the week was ordered in creation. And so it's a memorial in that way. And then, of course, we read in Deuteronomy where it says, and remember that you were a slave in Egypt, and the Lord your God brought you out from there with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm. Therefore the Lord your God commanded you to keep the Sabbath day. Well, that's interesting. So it's kind of a memorial of coming out of the land of Egypt, and how this Lord brought you out of there with a mighty hand. And, you can see how it's a definition of which God. It's the God. It's our God. And it's our God as a deliverer. And that's why we keep the Sabbath day. I just think about when in Psalms where it said he brought us up out of a horrible pit, out of the miry clay, and set my feet upon a rock and established my steps He has put a new song in my mouth. And I just think of that when I think of just coming out of Egypt, and it's God delivering us out of this horrible pit, out of the miry clay, out of this bondage in Egypt. And it's really just pointing forward to his deliverance of us from this earth where there is death, there's disappointment, there's, we're not living out our full times here. We're not even a fraction of what God intended for us to enjoy on this planet. And we can see it seems to be getting worse and worse. And we have something to look forward to. So the Sabbath is to remind us that God is deliverer. He will take us out of this, and he will deliver us from this. And how does this now tie in with the sanctification? Now we know that the Sabbath was sanctified by God. And we can see in Exodus how it says, and Moses said to the people, remember this day in which you went out of Egypt, out of the house of bondage, for by the strength of hand, the Lord brought you out of this place. And it says, and going on to Exodus 31:13, it says, speak also to the children of Israel, saying, surely my Sabbaths you shall keep, for it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that you may know that I am the Lord who sanctifies you. Okay, so now it's a memorial of creation. It's a memorial of deliverance, that we're to remember that he brought us out of Egypt and he's going to deliver us. And now we see that it's that you may know that I am the Lord who sanctifies you. So he sanctified the Sabbath day and he sanctifies us. And that's it's repeated. That text in Exodus is also repeated in Ezekiel 20:12. I think it's just pointing back and quoting the scriptures. It says, moreover, I also gave them my Sabbaths to be a sign between them and me, that they might know that I am the Lord who sanctifies them. So it's a really defining, it's a defining symbol. And it's also to remind us that it's God who sanctifies us, like he sanctified the day, and he can sanctify us. So, and this again goes back to, last quarter's lesson when we were talking about the covenant, and we're talking about how God wants to establish a covenant with us, and he wants to deliver us and cleanse us and make us bride material for him. And he's going to enter into this covenant with us. And so we say this is the same thing, that he's not only our creator, but he's going to deliver us. He's going to save us out of this world. He's going to protect us from evil, and he's going to sanctify us and bring us to him. And so this is what the Sabbath is about. And so these really tie together, especially when we read in Isaiah about how we're to call the day a delight and a luxury. If you're communing with somebody that you love, it's going to be a delight for you. It's going to be a luxury and a delight. And when on the Sabbath, I picture myself, or it's like I get transported to another place. And it's like I'm sitting within the city gates, the holy city gates, and I'm sitting there right at my Savior's feet, and I'm just protected. And, sometimes every once in a while, I get jarred out of that. And unfortunately, sometimes it's been in church when they're talking about a subject or something, and it's just not right on the Sabbath. It doesn't feel right, and it just feels like I'm being pulled out of that. And I say, no, I don't want to be pulled out of this place that I'm at. It's just as if I get transported. I love that Psalm 48. It's one of my favorites. I'm just going to read it here because it's so beautiful. It says, great is the Lord and greatly to be praised in the city of our God, in his holy mountain. Beautiful in elevation, the joy of the whole earth is Mount Zion on the sides of the north, the city of the great king. God is in her palaces. He is known as her refuge. For behold, the kings assembled, they passed together. And I, just skipping ahead to verse 12, I even created a song with this because it's so beautiful. It's walk about Zion and go all around her, count her towers, mark well her bulwarks and consider her palaces, that you may tell it to the next generation. For this is God, our God forever and ever. He will be our guide, even to death. And I just love that because it's just walk about Zion and go all around her, mark well her bulwarks and consider her palaces. So here is the protection of those bulwarks. It's just like you're inside the city gates. You're completely protected. And consider her palaces, and you're just submerged in luxury. And that's what I think the Sabbath is all about. Just having a glimpse of being in heaven, being transported to where God is, and being able to feel his protection and his luxury, his desire to give good things to us. It says in Psalm 91, which is another psalm that I really love, it says, because you have made the Lord, who is my refuge, even the Most High, your dwelling place. And he's going to, and the psalm goes on, he's going to protect us. It's like, if that's our dwelling place with him, when we are in his dwelling place, we are just protected. We are under the shadow of his wings. And I just think that's a wonderful thought of how I picture the Sabbath. And, there's other psalms that say how lovely is your tabernacle. That's Psalm 84. And there's just so many beautiful psalms. In fact, even Balaam, even when he was supposed to be trying to curse them, he says, how lovely are your tents, O Jacob, your dwelling, O Israel. He saw the vision. And I think it's like we see this vision of just being transported into the tents of God and into his holy city. So that I think is what unites all these things. God is creator, he's a deliverer, and he sanctifies us, and he brings us home. It's like the Sabbath is showing God as that husband, that giver of good gifts, that protector, and that's in that covenant relationship. It's like a relationship that you enter into, and it's like a marriage. He's going to sanctify us, he's going to make us bride material, and then he's going to give us these good gifts. And so the Sabbath is to remind us of that. And I love how the Sabbath ends the week. Some people keep their supposed holy day at the start of the week. And how sad is that? Why do you want to start on something good and then just degrade from there? Don't you want to go through the troubles, go through the struggles, go through the trials on this earth, and then come to that Sabbath, then get transported to that place? And how wonderful it is that God gives us a Sabbath once a week, that we can get transported. We need that. We need that to be able to be transported once a week and to feel as if we're in his heavenly gates for our own well-being. And I think it's just going to get more and more as time goes by, more important. And, the lesson study, I think it might have been in the teacher's part, but it asks a question about, because Ellen White does talk about the Sabbath being proclaimed more fully. It says let me see if I can find that quote. Yeah, it says the statement, and this is in Early Writings, page 33. She says, at the commencement of the time of trouble, we were filled with the Holy Ghost as we went forth and proclaimed the Sabbath more fully. And, of course, she goes to explain the commencement of the time of trouble. But then the question is, well, what do you think of that passage when it says we will proclaim the Sabbath more fully? And I think that, maybe, what I just said as far as us needing this time to be transported. If the earth gets so dark and there's a lot of things happening around us and the time of trouble is upon us, that we're going to need more than ever to be transported and connected with God, with our Savior and our Commander. We might have to be proclaiming his name and being his little army. And so we will need that strength, and we will need that. So that will become even more important. And then there's some other aspects of it too, which, there's other Sabbath days. There's other Sabbath days that God gave that are part of his calendar as well. We see that, this is the week. This is a weekly Sabbath. But, there's some text in the Bible where he says, you keep my Sabbaths. And I think he's not always talking about the weekly Sabbath, because there were other Sabbaths. And I think when we understand this weekly Sabbath, we can appreciate these other Sabbaths as well, that there are special times within God's calendar that he has hallowed, that he has sanctified, and that have the same importance to point us to things that are important for us to know and to remember. And so that may be also what she means by that. In her day, the seventh-day Sabbath was a very odd thing, because the other Christian churches weren't keeping it. The Jews were keeping it oddly, not necessarily biblically. And here there was a group of pioneers, if you want to call them that were going by the Bible. They were reading the Bible, and they were discovering this, and they were stepping out in faith, something that seemed probably weirder back then than it does now. We have established churches that keep the seventh-day Sabbath, and there's a lot more focus on it now. Relationship is, especially as we get closer and closer to his coming, and we're all getting closer to it. We're all getting older, and so how wonderful it is that we can look forward, that the ending will be good. On this planet, the ending is never good. We die, and no matter how good of a death it is, you're surrounded by loved ones, everything's just perfect. You lived you lived to be 120 years, and you were in perfect health or whatever. It's still not good, because then you're gone, and you can't bless more people, and they can't be blessed by you. So the ending is never good on this planet, but how wonderful it is that God ends on the Sabbath. He ends with a rest, and he will take us home, and we will be his bride someday. And that's something that we can look forward to every week and every day as we look forward to the Sabbath throughout the week. So hope you enjoyed this one. And next lesson, which I haven't looked ahead, but I looked enough to know that it's on the Sabbath, but I haven't. So hopefully we won't repeat anything. But anyway, I hope you join us next week for the next lesson in Sabbath School Gems. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Sabbath School Gems. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe, give us a rating, and spread the word to others. Comments and questions can be sent to us at sabbathschoolgems@gmail.com. Bye for now.